If not for Mark Andrews, who couldn't catch a cold in the freezing snow yesterday, then maybe the Ravens would have had a better chance to win that game. So the legacy game with Allen versus Jackson, was it really a legacy game, even with the result favoring Josh Allen and the Bills?
It was, but it's gonna be hijacked here. It's what bothers me about sports and the way I think a lot of people have gotten lazy. First of all, Mark Andrews hasn't fumbled since 2019. We all know he's a tremendous player who happened to have two really bad moments that nobody will forget about. So let's, fast forward 10, 12, 15, 20 years down the road. We're talking about whether it's us or others, right? The Montanas, the Bradys, the other big names. Peyton did this guy didn't do that. Steve Young did this. Bradshaw did that. You know all the names, okay? And if Lamar Jackson doesn't get to the Super Bowl and eventually win one, this is one of the games that's going to be held against him. And it's so unfair. And I ask you, who was better, Josh Allen or Lamar?
Yeah, I think Lamar was better.
So do I. And I love Josh Allen.
But love him. Well, Josh Allen did not. I mean, yesterday the fans were chanting MVP. He did nothing yesterday. He handled the ball off. Now, that's a credit to the Bills, who have become a better ground team. They run the football this year as opposed to last year with Diggs and wide open.
Yes.
Which is why you could see them having more success. But they really should have lost that game if not for the mistakes over and over again by Baltimore. Here's where I would push back a little bit. And I'm not disagreeing because Mark Andrews, and you can say what you will about his career, he sucked yesterday. Sucked. That's inexcusable. It's inexcusable to fumble the football in a big spot the way that he did. He had a drop earlier on in the game, and then that drop is you can't do it. If you're a great player, even a good player, you cannot cost your team like that. So he was god-awful. However, Lamar, it was the first game all year that he had multiple turnovers in. Mm-hmm. So again, trying to do too much. Was the interception a killer? No. The fumble was a killer. That changed the game. So, we could blame Andrews and say, well, he should have made the catch and give Lamar another chance. But Lamar also didn't play his best.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I guess that was an RPO where he fumbled it, so there was really nowhere to throw the ball. He talked about in the post-game press conference. And it's not just football, guys, and it's not just Lamar and Josh and all the other names that I gave you. Let me give you a more local example. This is a bigger issue, how we just forget stuff. And I don't know, it may be because we're now conditioned, move on to the next one. Maybe we consume not we, but some of you consume games differently where you half watch and half paid attention, but so many details get blurred. Garrett Cole. Right. Let's say that Garrett Cole never gets back to the World Series with the Yankees, which means he never wins a World Series with the Yankees. His career, and I understand this to an extent, but his career will be positioned as less than, say, CC Sabathia, who won a championship, obviously. Who do you think has been the better pitcher? I personally think it's Garrett Cole. Now, as you talk about Garrett Cole, no championships or no appearances back in the World Series, right? Well, what's going to happen over time, the details of that disgraceful circus where the Yankees booted the ball all over the place will be largely forgotten. And the burden of failure will be dumped solely at Garrett Cole's doorstep, and of course, Judge, right. And that is unfair, and it's historically incorrect.
It is the way that we judge sports a lot of times incorrectly. You judge these athletes, the same thing. So Josh Allen's now going to be built up because he was able to beat Lamar Jackson, but he did nothing in that game yesterday, which is why all we can do is react in real time and know what our eyes saw. So for somebody looking up the stats 20 years down the road and says, well, Lamar lost to Allen head to head. Yeah, well, I mean, I do think there are
Here's
things.
Why.
Yeah, well, exactly.
XYZ.
But I also, even with that being the case, and they did not, the Ravens beat themselves. The Bills didn't beat them, and McDermott's a fool, and I want to get into that a little bit later, too, for his decisions. He got bailed out. But Lamar, with all that being said, and blaming Andrews and the team overall, and yes, the landscape of how we view these athletes and judge these athletes should be changed. It shouldn't always be about, yeah, but does he have a Super Bowl ring?
Yeah.
A head coach, same thing, whatever. Yeah, but has he won a Super Bowl before? That should not be the end all, because there are many variables that play in. With all that being said, I still don't think Lamar was at his best yesterday, which again continues the conversation that Lamar Jackson in the post. I mean, look, you didn't have a game with multiple turnovers until yesterday. There's something to that.
I got to tell you, I know it was fun as a kid. The kids are off today for the holiday, obviously. But if today was not Martin Luther King Day, then everybody would be in school, right? And theoretically, but of course, with the snow, they would have off. And what would you be doing? You'd be playing in the street. You go to the park, you'd play football, you'd play very rough two-hand touch in the street because there's snow. And it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play in. But big games like this, Do you love snow games? It's not like you can postpone the game, so there's nothing you could do, but we didn't get to see the best of Lamar. We didn't get to see the best of Josh Allen. And as football fans, we get cheated there because the field was a slippery mess, even though it wasn't as bad up in Buffalo as it was down here downstate and in New Jersey. But I don't love this in big games.
Yeah, I don't think that had an impact on what we saw yesterday.
Mark Andrews' foot slipped on that 2-point. 100%.
Was his hands broken?
No, but he slipped. No. I'm not making it. You got to catch the ball. But all I'm saying, Sal.
And by the way, BT, he dropped the ball early.
I know. He played awful.
Isaiah Likely was catching balls all over the place.
I know. But I'm saying
his ball less slippery than
but I'm just saying, think about this. When you go the play at the pylon, the 2-point conversion, when you are, and again, you can catch that ball with your teeth if you're not wearing a helmet. Easy play. I'm not making an excuse. That was awful for a really good player. Not great, really good player. He messed up. He's going to have to live with it. And by the way, Lamar said the right thing. Andrews said the right thing. Well, he didn't say anything. Harbaugh said the right thing. Thought the Ravens handled that well and picked up a really classy, good teammate the right way. But when he's going to catch that ball, this applies to baseball, catching a pass in basketball. If your foot slips, your I know it's a little subtle thing. I know it seems like an excuse, but your line of sight is obviously impacted. And again, as a pro tight end, you got to make that play, but his foot slipped a little bit. And it's not slipping if it's not snowy, which is what I'm saying.
It's also why I didn't like the play call, because as much as people could say, well, the play call was wide open, he had it, they should have made it. Yeah, but you're also now taking your chance by trusting somebody else other than a could be or should be MVP in Lamar Jackson. 2-point game, 2-point conversion, game on the line, season on the line.
Yep.
I want the ball in Lamar's hands and Lamar's hands only. I know it was an option if it was there, and if not, you could. I would rather just run with Lamar or even Henry. Have it be between him and Henry. You want an RPO, whatever it may be. But they put the trust in Andrews, who sucked yesterday. He dropped the ball earlier than that. He fumbled the football. So Harbaugh, yeah, big picture. Andrews a good player, but you're putting the trust in him. I had an issue with that. I'm not blaming the weather for that. I think the Ravens were just sloppy yesterday. The Bills didn't need to do much. They almost look. McDermott tried to give the game to the Ravens, even in the end there, with the horrible decisions that he made. Baltimore, to me, just wasn't good enough. And same thing with even Lamar Jackson. I just don't think he was good enough. Even the one fumble, one of the two turnovers, if they were corrected, maybe the Ravens do win that game. So I'm not saying that his legacy should definitively take a hit, because I know what you're saying.
Yep.
The result of the game shouldn't just be on Allen or Lamar Jackson, but I don't think Jackson was at his best again yesterday.
Well, it's funny because the play before the touchdown that put him within 2. I mean, the degree of difficulty on that play and where he threw that ball was absolutely lights out all time. I mean, it really was amazing. So, I mean, this is the perils of a sport where one game decides it all. I mean, we were all on Aaron Judge, and rightfully so. Judge eventually's got to silence these demons here in the postseason. But it's not like Aaron Judge had one game against the Dodgers. He went 0 for 4 and whiffed twice and grounded into a double play. He had a couple of games to get it going, a couple of series before that to get it going. For the most part, didn't, outside of a few moments. So, like the Birds and the Magics and the Jordans or the hockey goalies or the baseball players who were somewhere in the middle of the order, they get a longer leash to show that they really are great and commensurate with their regular season success and the accolades. Lamar Jackson is about to win his 3rd MVP. And he gets one game, and he's home. And he's better than Josh Allen. And it stinks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and the thing that Josh Allen did better than him yesterday was just not make mistakes.
I know.
Jackson was the more impactful player every time he had the ball, but he made more mistakes. And Allen, had a minimal. He ran the football okay and scored a couple of touchdowns running it, but he didn't light it up running the football as far as yardage goes, and certainly didn't do anything through the air. No touchdowns, but no interceptions, no mistakes for the Bills as they advance. Let's get to the calls here. 888-808-1019. BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Dan is in Edison. What's up, Dan?
Hey, listen, there's a game that I remember, early Super Bowl, Dallas-Pittsburgh. Jackie Smith.
Oh, Dan, hold it in. What does that have to do with yesterday's game?
Has to do with legacy.
All right, make your point, please. Go ahead.
My point is, up until then, Jackie Smith had a Hall of Fame career, just maybe a little bit. Anyway, he dropped the ball. What I remember about that Super Bowl is Dallas lost, and the ball was dropped by Jackie Smith.
Dan, can we talk? I thought you
I
wanted to talk about
what year is he talking about?
I thought you wanted to talk about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
We got to move on.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
Danny.
Joe was in the Bronx. Jeez.
Come on, Joe. Pick us up, buddy. Let's go, Joe.
What's up,
Fumble
Joe?
on the first play.
Hey.
Hey, Joe.
All right, guys. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
So you were talking about players and how championships can define their legacy. BT, I mean, you're a Don Mattingly fan. He has similar numbers to Kirby Puckett.
Yep.
And Puckett's in the Hall of Fame, and Donnie isn't. And
Yeah.
it's all about the championship.
Well, I mean, but it shouldn't be. But I think that's really what we're saying here, Joe, and that's a good point of reference. Obviously the injury to Donnie, but I just think and you and I, we disagree on a lot of stuff. We agree on this. We've always fundamentally, even when we weren't working together, we've carved out at least a little context here. Like, I just fundamentally have a really rough time, so definitively lowering somebody in terms of, the prowess of their overall career when the circumstances are out of their hands. Now, it is what it is. I mean,
Right.
Other players, by the way, are beholden to the same criteria, and some of them get through it, and hence they're elevated. But I think the sports world, particularly football, particularly the quarterback spot, is littered with basically guys who get hosed because their teammates don't do their job.
Well, and especially those two guys yesterday going into that game, the main narrative was it was a legacy game for Allen and Lamar Jackson. One of them needs to get over the hump and beat Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, that's even going to be more the case now for Josh Allen. He's got to win that game. But between those two yesterday, there's been struggles in the postseason. Bills getting to an AFC championship game. Lamar Jackson struggles in the playoffs. While I agree with you that it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all, whoever wins or loses that game, especially when you see the game play out. It wasn't like Lamar Jackson played like Sam Darnold played the last couple of weeks of the season.
No.
But he still wasn't at his best. So even in real time, and then looking back eventually, I don't think Lamar was at his particular best yesterday. Josh Allen didn't have to be at his best because his team did not make mistakes. They hand the football off. They ran the football down the Ravens' throat the majority of the afternoon. So he had an advantage in that regard. But it wasn't like Allen was so great and Lamar was okay.
But think about the false elevation now for Josh Allen.
Because he won that game.
Because he won the game. That's exactly what we're saying.
Right.
Like, there's just an elevation, which I don't want to say he doesn't deserve because he's the quarterback. And I love Josh. And I love Lamar. Like, it's funny. Those two guys, they are easy to root for.
Yeah.
And they're both very different skill set. But they're both winners. Like, they're both leaders. They're both incredible. Like, they're just awesome. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, and the way the game played out was weird, but it's still, Ravens shouldn't even had a chance, been in that spot to have to go for two to tie that game. So when you put yourself in that position, hey, a mistake could happen like that drop, and it is not fair to define Jackson on that one particular play. However, overall in the game yesterday, he could have been a little bit better. Justin is in Dobbs Ferry. What's up, Justin?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just thinking about that whole situation. Like, every team in Kansas City has these 2-point plays ready to go. It's like they use that same play 3 times in a row. They showed it like on Barstool or another thing. Like, they used that same play at Baltimore, and it came up 0 every time. It's like, come up with something big. I mean,
well, the thing is, they
got Derrick Henry.
did have it open, which is hard to criticize it. I just would not, and I said this in real time as somebody who was rooting for the Ravens, I want Lamar to handle this. Not throw the football and put it in the hands of Mark Andrews, the bad hands of Mark Andrews.
Well, he did the same thing they showed back against Pittsburgh in 21. That Mark Andrews was for 2-point conversion against Pittsburgh, and that happened. And it happened again like the same year with when they were going against another team. But it's just like, come up with a play, but make the extra point.
But just
one
one second. But you keep saying come up with a play. They did. I think that needs to be reasserted. I don't know if you're a big baseball fan. Thanks for the call, Sal. I'm going to throw this at you. Let's say October, Mendoza goes to a somewhat questionable, easy to debate, second guess move to the bullpen. I don't mean Diaz.
Whatever.
A guy that, maybe you're not fully sure of, right? He comes in, it's a matchup that you don't know if it's really favorable, whatever, and he induces whomever to hit a 3-hopper to whomever. And it's a routine play that these guys made when they were 12 years old, but a guy boots it. Doesn't hit a rock, there's no wind, just boots it, like, Judge with a pop-up in center. Are you crushing Mendoza? No, he made the right decision because the guy that he brought in did his job. It's the other guy who didn't do his job. So you keep saying come up with a new 2-point conversion. The play was there. They did their
Right.
job as a coaching staff.
Now, I did not see that they used this exact play multiple times
I didn't see that either.
and it didn't work. Now, if that's the case, you would think, well, we didn't have it work these first couple of times. Maybe try something new. I'm just saying from the perspective, I think it's the way I look at it would be twofold. Number one, they had a play that would have worked if all the participants did their job.
Yes.
Andrews did not do his job, therefore the play didn't work. However, I would have tried to minimize the amount of people I needed to succeed in said play. I'm putting the damn ball in Lamar Jackson's hands and figuring out a way to get him to the edge, whatever it may be, RPO. My two best players on offense are Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And that is what I want to emphasize in that spot. Whether the defense knows it or not, I want Lamar doing whatever he can to get the 2 yards to get himself into the end zone.
It's tough to push back on that, and I don't really truly disagree. The only thing that I would say, just for a different thought here, is that the Bills were thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So as they're stacking things up to sell out against Derrick, to sell out against Lamar, guess who slips open to the pylon? That's Mark Andrews, who didn't do his job.
David is in Secaucus. What's up, David?
Hey, Dave.
Hi. How about the Ravens coach going for 2 points with 1:37 left in the third quarter?
Yeah.
Now you kick the extra point there, and then this last minute doesn't have to be a 2-pointer. It'd be a kick to tie it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, we heard the morning show talking about that, and thank you for the call. Yeah, I mean, going for 2 when you don't have to necessarily. Look, with the Ravens, you would think going for 2 shouldn't be as much of a challenge or a risk as far as other teams because they have Lamar Jackson. I didn't have a huge problem with it in real time. In theory, I'm always a don't go for 2 until you have to.
Otherwise, you're playing catch up for an hour unnecessarily if you don't get it.
Okay, and then let's just say that they didn't go for 2 then, and then at the final touchdown of the game, Tucker misses the extra point.
But the probability is much more favorable.
I don't know. I mean,
no, it is. Tucker's not. I mean, what? No, the odds would say that the 2-point conversion is infinitely tougher to get than Tucker hitting an extra
guys
point.
miss extra points all the time now, though.
I understand, but I'm saying compared to the alternative, it's not even close.
I'm just saying that nothing is guaranteed. So you could play it out in your mind if you want, and then what? The game still would have been tied anyway. So yeah, chasing points is never a good idea. What if the game played out differently and then Baltimore had a chance to kick a field goal to tie it? Like when you are chasing points that early, it doesn't make sense because there's a lot of game to play. So in other words, you're down 4. Or whatever it was, to get the math to be within a field goal, right? So they're down 5, I guess. You want to get the 2-point conversion to get yourselves within a field goal, not accounting for the other team eventually scoring some points, which is why I wouldn't do it. I just don't think that to me was the biggest issue. The bigger issue is not converting on the 4th down play or the turnovers that they had throughout the course of the game.
Let's take 22 degrees, no wind, no precipitation, same stadium, same teams. They played 10 times. Think the Bills win more?
No, I think the Ravens do.
That's what's tricky about this.
Don't you?
I picked the Bills to win yesterday, but I think the more they play in terms of volume, I'd probably go with the Ravens.
Yeah.
They're just bigger, and they talked about that whole broadcast. That's why they needed to shove the ball down the Bills' throat more, and they didn't.
The Ravens had all the turnovers, all the mistakes, all the drops, and they still should have tied the game at the very end there. So Buffalo was 4. And Buffalo, and we'll get to the McDermott decision, which I just don't understand at all when we come back. But Buffalo, and they're still making dumb decisions. They got away with one yesterday. Hey, Bills are moving on, Ravens are not. And it is going to be an impact on the legacy of both the quarterbacks, right or wrong. Favor of Allen, obviously a negative with Lamar. More of your calls when we come back. BT and Sal on the Fan.